Well, greetings and welcome to another episode of Lightbulb Moments, episode number 220. And not just another episode of Lightbulb Moments. This is going to be a very special and memorable episode of Lightbulb Moments as you get a chance to meet our guest very shortly, a guest who we've been wanting to get on since January, but due to scheduling conflicts, a little bit of jury duty thrown in there and what have you, here we are today. And very shortly, I will welcome Micah Nickens. Before I get to that, I want to give a shout out to a sponsor of ours, Lightheart Sanders, who has been sponsoring this podcast essentially since the very beginning. So thanks to them. So this is the first episode after the 5th annual Phil conference that we all just returned from a week ago, last Wednesday. And my head and heart are both full. It was, I would say, by most people that were part of it, our best Phil ever. Every year, it's hard to take it up another level, but I think we did it this year. And it's a good reminder. Every year we say, geez, do we really want to do these events? Because it takes so much ATM, attention, time, and money. And the event schedule is crowded. A lot of bigger businesses with bigger budgets and bigger teams are doing conferences right now, of which many of which we attend and celebrate. At the same time, it's a lot of work. And I would say that when I personally look at the success of a conference, especially where I think we do very well, is content, community, and hospitality. And a big shout out to our sponsors, our team, and of course, most importantly, the attendees that trusted us to get on flights, get in a hotel, take time away from work, probably lose revenue. And at the end of the day, I'm always reminded that in-person community and that connection is something that you can't deny in terms of fueling future progress. So we actually opened up enrollment for next year. We already set the date. We are going to be moving to Scottsdale, Arizona. It's going to be moving to I believe the dates are April 12th and 13th. Maybe Shannon will put it in the chat here. We actually opened up enrollment and we're already 15% of our goal. And so we will sell out next year. So we'd love to have you next year. We do have some preferred pricing right now. So lock in and we're going to take it to another level next year. So today's guest, is a really great compliment to a lot of the AI type episodes that I've had in recent years. And Micah Nickens and I had sort of circled around a lot of the same friends and community. He's been part of the Neal family of businesses for a long, long time. He's part of really what helped launch Parker Barber, which is a part of the Paris Parker group of salons in Louisiana. And specifically Randy Taylor of Hairbrained and Paul Easton, a couple of creative geniuses. And it's no surprise that Micah counts both those guys as dear friends and collaborators. But he's also, again, been a big part of the Neal family. So anyway, Micah, why don't we bring you to the camera and bring you to the mic, and we'll say good morning to you.
Good morning.
How are you, my friend?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Good morning down here.
It's good to finally have you as a guest here. So
it's good to be in. I got hijacked the day before by a federal case that lasted 3 weeks, and terribly interesting, but sorry I missed out.
For another day. So let me actually read your bio. And grew up in the Steel Magnolia side of the beauty business. Joined the beauty business at the age of 29. You had your own shops. As you said, by the way, you said this and it just cracked me up, and I've got to say it right now. You've been behind the chair, behind the desk, and behind in your taxes. So that was a really great line, by the way. And I
Good.
think a lot of people can relate with that.
Yeah.
But 6 years ago, specifically on April 25th, 2020, you had a life-changing incident, one that resulted in a brain injury and something that really had recentered you personally and professionally. So we're gonna get to that in a moment here. But again, I'm so glad to have you here as a guest and to talk about your story, sort of before the accident, during the accident, and I think most importantly after the accident, and really what that's meant to you and all of that. So let me share for our listeners. I've shared this with you, Micah, that so my story around this is it's serious business. Several people that are listening to this will have been to serious business. For those that don't, I'll sort of create a picture. There's really two different facilities that make up serious business. There's a Sanger Theater, where all the main stage activities are, there's the auditorium that can fit up to, I don't know, maybe 1,500 people, as it did that day when I saw you. And that's where like the speakers are, and then it moves back to another building. Anyway, I was over at the Sanger Theater listening to the keynote speakers, and I got up to leave because I had to get over to the other building. Candace from our team was prepping for a data panel, but then Garrison came out, and I thought, well, I can't walk out on Garrison. And then he mentioned her name, and for some reason I sat down, and I listened to the 10 minutes, and it was like, wow. And I'm so grateful that I had that just pause, because unbelievable. So now what I'm going to suggest, Micah, is that I'm going to go ahead and have Shannon put the link of the harebrained recording of your story, your talk. And I'm going to encourage everybody to listen to it, and we'll touch on bits and pieces of it. But it was poignant, made us laugh, made us cry, made us think, and we all were transfixed. So here we are.
Thanks, man. I'm glad you stayed as well. And another instance that Garrison has done good things for me just by walking out on the stage. I met Garrison early 2000s or so. I think he was a younger kid, but
Right.
we've grown to be close over the years with his family as well. And Garrison, he's maybe 15 years younger than me, but he's become a big brother. And really appreciate them. So once again, now we're sitting here because of them. Can't
Absolutely.
walk out on G, man.
Well, I mean, I was transfixed. I was in the aisle. I was like, wow. I mean, anyway, so that began the relationship that I've had with you that has always circled in the background. But again, here we are today. So let's set the stage for our listeners. And why don't you take a few minutes just to describe April 25th, 2020 for us?
Okay, it was quarantine. We had, everything was shut down at the time. I was dating somebody out west. She came in to ride out quarantine. She's a costumer, so she was teaching me to sew, and I was teaching her to cut hair. That's what we were doing. And I rode to the shop just to grab some things, some mannequins and all that of a Vespa. And on the way back, the accident happened. My tire slipped on a streetcar rail. It was just a misty day, rubber, metal, and water slipped. And it was bad. Fatality was called to the scene. I hit the asphalt face first, and was out for a couple of weeks in a coma, and then a while in the hospital with brain injury resulting in brain damage. And I was a heavy drinker before. daily for 10 years, really highly functioning. And post-accident, what drove me to escape was gone. My brain was broken. And what I found out through this is so much of what was in my way was just constant thinking, fueled by insecurity, fueled by, we can leave it at that. A lot of branches grow off of that tree, but with my brain broken, that narrative was broken. And I just felt like I was able to see clearly for quite a while and was able to start doing the work that I needed before. I just wasn't strong enough before. And that's where I found myself.
So there's, and it's an incredible trauma and so many different, I mean, your journey in the hospital, I mean, couldn't walk, couldn't clothe yourself, couldn't feed yourself, couldn't bathe, couldn't go to the bathroom, um, no visitors because of quarantine. Pretty damn alone, huh?
Yeah, the not being aware of what happened and then being transferred from a bed that I was belted in and belting only because if I stood up, I would fall. But being transferred from a bed to a wheelchair, belted in both, um, not able to do anything, to being scrappy coming from a Napoleon complex, being scrappy and independent before, I was totally reliant. And yeah, it was quarantine, so family and friends couldn't visit. So I was there with an absolutely amazing staff that was totally aware of that. Actually, every Thursday, I spend 5 hours on the floor I was on and sit with brain injury patients with the staff because they were so great. Is at Toro Hospital here. But yeah, the self was gone, and not the real self, not essence, not a true I, but the structure that I had created um, was all gone. Couldn't do anything, and I don't know why. I didn't fall off of a mountain meditating and hit my head. I mean, I was living pretty vapid inwardly. So it's not as if I went into this with a practice or with any sort of ground to fall on. I don't know why, and I'm really grateful that this didn't land in victimhood or it didn't destroy me. It just reset me. And that's not because of my strength. I can't give it to anything that I did.
Where did you get your strength from?
I really can't talk about it without getting into the metaphysical side of things and something bigger. And I have nothing bigger to sell anyone.
Yeah.
But if you've ever listened to NDE stories or that side of neuroscience, neuropsychology, I did more so, I landed in oneness. I landed in love. I landed in gratitude. I landed in kindness. I landed in understanding. And None of those were my chief features before 2020. So uh, I just have to give it to something else. And I'm not trying to avoid saying God, but I'm also trying to avoid turning people off. But uh, it does work for me to say God because I have no faith to sell.
Okay. The I want to talk about some of the permanent damage that you've had, but before I go there, back to the hospital just for a moment. Is it true you actually called Deborah Neal and said that you were being kidnapped and were in asylum and you wanted her to come rescue you? Is that
I
true?
did. I did. Whenever I was given my things back, and I don't know the timeline. I don't know if it was in the first week or second week. I that wasn't really something I could follow, but I knew that I was kidnapped and being held, and tried to escape, which is more comical. I mean, I would try to get up and fall,
Oh,
and yeah, it was more cute than a real escape. And
sure.
when I started to figure out my phone a little bit, it came to mind that Deborah would be the one to break me out. So I did get in touch with her, and I think explained that I just needed to hide out until all this blew over. It was some sort of thing like that. And for everyone that knows Deborah, she's quite an elevated person. And in my weakest, I saw safety.
Mm.
And she didn't break me out of the hospital then, but she has given me a place to heal the last 5 years. And she's a really big part of what's happening in my life.
Yeah, well, she's been exceptionally generous, which I'm aware of that, and which does not surprise me. So the before and after. So you have, certainly there are permanent things, you can see it in your speech, your pace, etc. And there's things that's more or less forced you to slow down in every respect. Garrison suggested during his 2-minute introduction of you that clients are having extraordinary experiences with you. It may take longer, but your work behind the chair has changed. It's different. But if anything, it might be even more compelling. So maybe just for our listeners, we, describe sort of the things that you can't do anymore or things that are different, that permanent, and then segue over into how that's moved to. And that's the other part of the story is the meaning part of the story is what you've done with it, and what you've done with your life, and how you've interpreted that and drawn meaning and created a new chapter for you. So let's take us through that, if you will.
An easy example is right now, I couldn't click on the chat button and follow that and talk to you. I can't really split attention. I have damage in my right temporal lobe, which where attentiveness is. Uh, I went to a psychologist not long after I got out of the hospital. At a psychologist at the hospital, I went to her for a year. And I remember specifically one day feeling that I was going backwards. And I explained to her that I feel like I'm pulling a big eraser behind me through the day. And it's not completely erasing, but blurring out the day for me. I remember my conversation with Tom, but the things happening around me. And I told her, I was like, I think I'm regressing. She said, you have damage in your right temporal lobe. You can only pay attention to one thing at a time. People take medicine and join religions to be that way. She's like, if that's a symptom of your brain damage, it may be a gift. she changed things for me. I left feeling better actually, but yeah, I can't split attention, so I don't spend time trying to. I fail pretty. I fail at doing that. So where I used to do 30-minute haircuts and know how many dishes needed to be, I knew how many dirty dishes there were. I could keep track of everyone's conversation. I knew we needed 3 grooming clays back on the shelf, that sort of thing. I just can't do that anymore. I also move slower, so now I'm booking on the hour. So I'm seeing maybe a quarter, but maybe a third of what I used to see weekly. Um, but I'm there with them. I'm able to hear the inflection of voice more. I'm able to ask the next question that I might have passed over before. Um, and the effect seems very real. A guest came in a couple of years ago. First time haircut, he and his wife were in town on vacation. He didn't seem sad, but there was a bit of a wet towel on him. And I asked him about travel. He's like, and the way he said, yeah, now that we don't, since we don't have kids, we're doing things. So I just asked about kids. No kids. That's how do you feel about that? My wife has cancer. We can't have kids. And then I tell him I had cancer too. I couldn't have kids. So then all of a sudden it changes from a haircut and just catching up housing runs to me talking about the traps that ruined me through that, the anger, the resentment of it. And we stayed in touch a little bit after that. Just connection. And that sort of stuff's happening now more. I don't think it's our job to be counselors. I know some hairdressers, you don't want to take everything home. And I agree with that. I'm just in a different spot now that I have time. And after I got out of the hospital, before I started working again, which was about a year and a half afterwards, I had coffee with Deborah one time. And I was asking her, I was like, I just want to do something with meaning now because I was feeling what I explained earlier so much. And maybe hair's not it. And we were sitting in the cafe at the Virgin Hotel around the corner from the shop. And she was like, what's more meaningful than sitting with someone an hour a month, one on one? She's like, this is why we're here. And that little visit turned my focus behind the chair even more so. I'm really bad at inventory now. I can't keep my thoughts on all the things that an owner manager can. But my time behind the chair is meaningful.
You survived an accident that many people would have perished from. Literally, they were called on the scene, pronounced dead on arrival. I mean, here you are today finding meaning in this. And really, how compelling to suggest that the gift is to be fully present. Certainly, but in your particular case, it was forced on you.
Yeah. 11 days before my accident, a friend of 30 years, 5 kids, 1 year younger than me, was diagnosed with ALS here in the city. I didn't find out till maybe early 21, maybe late 20, much longer after I got out and got in the hospital. And this is translated to him too. Everything's taken except love in the present moment. So Brian and I get together monthly and have these talks about the experience of living here now, and it's full.
You know, back to your serious business talk, it was so compelling. I mean, it was like, I mentioned made you laugh, made you cry, made you think, everything that you hope to get from someone's on a main stage. And your humor came through too. In fact, I just watched the a video of it this morning. Okay, just to get myself centered. And the very first words you said erupted in laughter. It was some crack about the music that I had to replay a couple times, and then you threw your humor throughout a couple different times too, which is really was very compelling. But there was also a segment during your talk that you shocked everybody. You raised your voice, and no one saw it coming. And I'm going to kind of imitate it right now, but I'm also going to warn the audience that this is going to feel kind of nuts. But essentially, because I don't want you to have to like perform on demand to be able to recreate something you did, but it was super. It really got everybody's attention. It was probably midway through. And then you sort of like mentally listed, here's your identity, whether it's an artist, a learner, a color, whatever. And then now here's where I'm going to raise my voice. So warning to all of you. And you essentially said, what if I snatch that from you right now? It was like, whoa, that woke up the audience.
I wanted to try to translate something traumatic.
Yeah.
I didn't trust. I didn't know if the stage was hollow. If the stage was hollow, I could have stomped really loud. I could have clapped. I could have done something, but I just wanted to, in my stretching my meekness, I wanted to try to extend some shock.
You did. Everybody sat up to attention. Well, you've been sober 6 years now. You're, it's a quiet life, unhurried. You can't hurry. You mentioned that you process things a little bit slower than you did before. And, again, where's the gift in this? You talked about all of us being bombarded with distractions, and you also talked about the opportunity to present at serious business like that, really being in awe that you were able to stand up and to be able to tell that story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The word stillness and quiet doesn't mean absence of noise. It just means quiet and still. And that teaching's been around since people have been around. That's an ancient thing.
Mm-hmm.
Again, no one philosophy, faith, spiritualist, prophet, no one has the corner on that. They all say it. I was looking for it in drunkenness, but I was doing the opposite, you know. So I see it as a gift now. And as my brain has healed, the narrative has come back, a different narrative, but still. As my brain's healed, I've had to start working for that. I have to bring myself back. I'm not, I have to find stillness in moments. I have to do the work like we all do. Um, and, doing the work is not perfect. It's just persistently trying. That's it. Um, Reading through a lot now. That's become my new thing. I read with my cat all the time.
You what's
Uh,
that?
I read with my cat. Like that's probably what I do the most outside of work, and a lot of walking. But in neuroscience, you have the materialist side, which is what we hear the most of. And the materialist of anything only looks at what's in black and white on paper and what's there. And then there is not even the periphery of neuropsychology anymore. That's, there's a book of Niebauer. His first name is escaping me, but No Self, No Problem, How Neuropsychology is Catching Up to Buddhism. I
Hmm.
must have read that book 10 or 12 times, and I experienced some of what's in that book, but more and more of what's being found is just showing these ancient teachings are what's being discovered.
Yeah. You know, you also, for the last 3 years, you suggested to me that you go to the hospital every Thursday for 3 hours. Tell us about that.
Yeah, there was a gentleman, he's the inpatient counselor. His name's Stephen Carrier. And Stephen brought me through the darkness as more than anybody during that time. And the rest of the staff they were all amazing, but Stephen, he had understanding. He lost mobility 18 years ago now, and he knows trauma, he knows change, and he was crucial to me, and he actually still is. And I told Garrison this when I started to get out a little bit, as I started working. I said, at some point, instead of adding more hours, I really want to go back to the hospital and sit with basically myself in 2020 with understanding and talk with them. So I go in right around 4 hours now. We started another group, but I just sit with them, or maybe a occupational speech therapist will ask me to sit in. I'm not doing the therapy, but I'm just sitting there. And there's been a couple times a therapist will talk to a patient who you can see is losing hope. And like, I used to feed Micah. We used to have to do this with Micah. They can see that
Hmm.
time is a healer. Also, the care and instruction that the staff was given. And when I got home, when I could start writing again, I was writing a lot, and I still write a lot. And when I started going back to the hospital, right at, I think 3.5, 4 years now, when I started going back, I hear Stephen a lot of times, and I hear some of the therapists saying the things that I was writing that were coming from inside of me. That while it seemed I was maybe distant and not taking it in the hospital, they were speaking into me, and it came out. And now that I'm back, I'm hearing where it came from. And yeah, it's a meaningful time for me to go back. And it doesn't translate into trauma. It doesn't translate into seeing how bad. It's not that. It's gratitude and um,
Well, it's extraordinary. I mean, a half a day a week for 3 years. I mean, do the math. What is that? 150 weeks, something like that. I mean, it's huge. Now, you also mentioned to me you spoke at a brain injury conference last year with therapists and um, maybe provide a little encouragement to them in terms of the work that they do. Tell us about that.
yeah, I it's the Brain Injury Association has a place in each state. So the one for Louisiana, I was able to speak to a room of therapists that actually got continuing education unit coming. And I had a panel with me. I spoke, and then the panel got questions, and it was Stephen. It was my physical therapist, an occupational therapist, a therapist that I work with now in my volunteering, and I talked to the therapist as if they were my therapist, and it was in gratitude, that what they gave was the basis of hope. There's a quote that I use that without a vision of where we're going, there's no hope. But if someone can just show us the path to an end, we have hope to get there. And I felt that that's what they did. They showed me the path to a full life. And something that Stephen did say that's still absolutely important to me is that I didn't I didn't use any words that deal with war. I wasn't fighting a brain injury. I wasn't struggling to make it through the day. I wasn't battling to get back to my old self. There's no warrior, there's no war in this. All the language dealt with discovery. Who's going to come out of this? I use path, journey, discovery, those words more because right now, today, talking to you, if I was battling to get back to my old self, I'd be a failure. But I didn't battle to get back to him. I discovered a new man. I discovered a new person. And that person's a lot more free. So I think in a lot we battle. We battle darkness. We battle our demons. We battle these things. But sometimes being brave is just trusting the process. I know there are times that neither of these are right every time, but there are certain times, and I just needed to trust the process.
So, in terms of driving meaning and looking at the industry and all the listeners are from the beauty and wellness space, with some aspect of being an owner, being a technician, being somehow involved in the industry. It's an industry that touches other people. What perspective do you offer for members of the industry? You talked about this is an industry of people, which I love this quote by Simon Sinek: 100% of your customers are people, 100% of your employees are people. If you don't understand people, you don't understand business. For you personally, what meaning can you derive for this that would maybe help other people that won't be going through a brain injury, or hopefully won't, or won't have some trauma? What lessons do you want to share as we start moving into wrap up here?
Yeah, we work in a really enjoyable creative industry. We get to create. We're also working in math and geometry. We're also dealing with people. I mean, the fragility of how somebody can come in and walk out feeling beautiful, feeling hot, feeling this, feeling that. We hold that. That's really important, but it's really fun too. I think while staying in that enjoyable side, we can be more attentive just to tone of voice. We can be more attentive to language. Um, Again, not forcing that we need to be counselors or psychologists, but some people just want to be seen. It's that simple. They're not seen at home. They're not seen anywhere. One older person that I cut in their 70s said the worst thing about being old is that no one looks me in the eye anymore because I'm not beautiful or important. It's just learning that. We can do both. We can create, enjoy. We can also just really listen. I think I only think, I don't know,
Mm.
that as the world becomes zombies on their phone, and as people start to sound like chatbots in conversation, and they know everything about this cup, the makeup of the cup. Have you seen the original color from 1843? Sometimes talking to people, it's like talking to a search engine. While that happens, I think the ability just to understand each other with humanity is going to become an important part of our industry. Someone who just, as robots eventually cut hair, I think our touch and our conversation is going to be the important part. I'm not scared of technology. I'm not, remember the golden age. There were no golden ages, but I think keeping humanity, I think eye contact, I think touch, I think those things are going to become the value added services in our industry.
Thank you. Let's give Mike a virtual round of applause. And use the chat. And then Micah, you can now move over to just reading the chat. But before you do that, watch for your $1 million light bulb. So thanks for being a guest today. You'll get this in the mail. You could put it next to your reading chair and near your cat and think of this moment together. So thanks for sharing with us.
Thanks, Tom. And I'm glad our first long conversation was it was as beautiful as I thought it'd be because, the Randy, Paul, all those guys talk so highly of you. And I'm glad people got to watch it.
Me too. All right, folks, that's a wrap. Yeah, Micah, I'm going to leave this meeting. Take your time, read the comments. Boy, after that episode, I'm not sure what the next episode's going to be. I think it's going to be about P&Ls. But anyway, that's part of the whole process too. So, Micah, I've been looking forward to this for a very long time, and I'm glad that you're able to hear some love being thrown at you in the chat there, and let you and I stay in touch. Okay.
Sure.
All right, my friend. Thanks again. The rest of you, thanks for joining us today. We'll see you in 2 weeks, and keep throwing some comments in there if you like. And again, thanks for spending your precious attention and time with us today. Very moving episode, and I love it. So take care, everybody.